See in higher education, particularly in French-speaking Africa, is the need to raise the standards of the faculty through peer-reviewed publications, service at several levels, service to the level of the university, service to the level of the students, service to the level of the nation, and service to the level of the continent. And teaching, a commitment, a serious commitment to teaching, and a rigorous system of accountability. Now, this is very important because the godlike figure of the professor in Senegal, where students are afraid to talk to, the professors are unapproachable in many respects, and that is a big problem for most, I would say, French-speaking Africa. I remember we used to have a professor who used to say, they grade out of 20. 20 out of 20 is the grading system that is used. So 20 out of 20 is for God. 18 to 19 and 17, that's for the prophets. And below that, that's for the professors. 15, 16, that's for the professors. And the students, the genius, will have maybe 14. And so there is no really fair system that is objective, that rewards the efforts of the students. And the figure of the professor is someone who is in many ways a godlike figure that is unapproachable and therefore can be challenged, if or ask questions that are relevant to the students. So I think that's a very important problem that needs to be addressed in the 21st century. Particularly in French-speaking Africa, we need also to get rid of the uprooting French model of education, which generally perpetuates a system that has no bearing in local reality. It produces PhDs and people with master's degrees who are experts in French history, classics, Voltaire, Rimbaud, Camus, among others, and not in areas of expertise needed in the country and the countries such as health, agriculture, technology, local histories, cultures, ethnic groups, tensions between ethnic groups, local languages, local heroes, and references to youth. The current educational model produces intellectuals, and that's very sad, who devalue their own languages and heritage, and who equate success and modernity with the ability to speak metropolitan French, often with hypercorrections. So you will hear people saying, oh, is not better, when none of these Senegalese languages have those uvular sounds. And of course, the current French-based educational model results from the French colonial direct assimilation rule. For those, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that concept. Right. The direct assimilation rule, whose goal was, in fact, to ensure that Africans are ashamed of their own languages and cultures, termed dialect, unable to express complex thoughts. The use of the shameful practice called symbol. The symbol is a very interesting phenomenon, an educational tool that was used to punish people in French-speaking Africa. And if there's some of you here who attended some of the French schools, if you were to use a Wolof word or Jola or another word in class, then you get caught. There used to be a very funny and shameful bone. It usually could be a bone from a dog or a bone from a horse or whatever, and they would tie it around your neck. And you would have to catch somebody else using another African language to transfer that symbol to him. Now, what that created was, it created intellectuals who deemed that only French language is human language, and who were ashamed of their own language. And I think that was part of a larger policy of the French colonial assimilation policy, which used that educational punishment to make sure that African languages and African cultures get out of the educational system. And that, I'm sorry to say, that in many French-speaking African institutions today is still yet to be reformed. And there have been recent efforts at the University of Dakar in October to recruit 2 professors of medieval French and medieval history, a specialist for medieval history of Europe and a specialist of a medieval history of the Islamic world. Now, I don't have any problem with these recruitments if we have filled the needs. But when we lack specialists in African history, ethnic groups, local heroes, local languages, and specialists in all areas of need, I think these types of recruitments highlight the problems, ideological problems, facing African institutions. Now, what is critically needed in higher education, in my view, in most African countries today, is the creation of departments and programs that focus on challenges and solutions to those challenges. First, programs that enable ethnic groups, the Wolof, Pulaar, Serer, Hausa, Yoruba, Igbo, Mandinga, and others, to know each other better and to appreciate their own shared heritage. Programs that address ethnic, cultural, religious tensions through the use of local means such as kara, which is joking relationships between ethnic groups. For example, the Pulaars and the Jola, the Wolof, and others have joking relationships that could be used to diffuse tensions. And programs that teach African languages to produce intellectuals who are both open to the world, but equally rooted in their own languages and cultures, and be able to talk to the population without using bookish French or bookish English, often with hypercorrection. It's very interesting that sometimes I even have a hard time following the French that is used, so I need to open my dictionary to find some of the words. Wow. All right. I'm going to speed up here. Okay. And then, so for opportunities, I think there's several opportunities. I think the first thing that I see to be a major opportunity in the 21st century is that we're able at this point to move away from the inherited colonial model to one that is anchored in local reality and provide solutions to local problems. To invest in excellence in research and teaching informed by local realities and enriched by outside input. To create an educational system that trains the youth of the 21st century in practical skills needed to succeed both in their own countries and anywhere else in the world. To create a fair and rigorous accountability system that strongly rewards excellence and equally punishes corruption and nepotism. To create programs where the new generation of Africans is taught the African versions of history, produce Africans